There's probably no bigger expert in the history of Southern memory than Dr. Karen Cox. She is a legend in the field, and I have admired her work for years. But really, in the last few years, I have become so grateful to her for her friendship, because for whatever reason, this incredible woman has befriended me and really been a guiding force for me in a lot of different ways. And I can't really express that here or even in the podcast you're about to listen to. But what I can tell you is that for so many of us historians, Karen Cox exists in this space beyond academia. She is in this stratosphere. She is this person I think so many of us look up to and admire. And if you know Karen, you know that she has this remarkable career and this remarkable life story. But if you don't, these are things you probably should know, because, God, she makes it look easy. So I asked Karen to come on the pod today to talk not only about her work, but about her life. Because one of the things I wanted to talk about was how we become historians, how we fall in love with the craft of history, how this informs what it is that we do. But I also wanted to humanize these legends, these rock stars in our own field. So if you're listening in, you're a graduate student or you're a fellow scholar, you go, wait a second, this woman had to fight. And my God, has Karen had to fight. And I think that's one of the amazing things about her story, is that she just punches through. I'm really excited to talk to you today with Karen. This is a long conversation. We dive into Karen's life. We dive into her story, into her thoughts on teaching, her thoughts on AI, her thoughts on the academy. Really, it's a no holds barred conversation for about an hour and 45 minutes where we just go. So if you are thinking about your place as a scholar, there's no better person to talk to than Karen, because she gives it to you real. And that's exactly what you have here. This is a very raw conversation with a very real human being and someone who I just love and adore and admire so very much. So sit back and relax, because our conversation with Karen Cox is next on Reckoning with Jason Herbert. My name is Jason Herbert. I'm a Southerner who lives in the West. I'm a historian, an outdoorsman, and a movie buff. I like finding new answers to old questions, and this is a reckoning. Feel like what people really need is this I feel like what America right now, Karen, needs is this conversation between you and me, where you treat me like the stupid little brother that I am, and then I treat you like the person who's like, all right, yes, when I say stupid things, and then you go, you need to get your head out of your ass. Because if you're listening in right now, I get at least one, need to get your head out of your ass text from Karen about once a week, something like that. Where are we at on that?
Well, I don't know if I use those words, but yeah,
it's implied with love, though. So
yeah, you need to be smacked around a little bit, Jason.
Well, okay. I'm going to ask you to give me credit. Now people are like, oh wow, the man's going to ask of the woman. Is that what this is going to be? I do listen. Try.
No, you don't.
I try. Well, okay.
You have an Achilles heel. Let's just say that.
Yeah, it's called my heart. My heart is my heart is an a-hole. You and I agreed we were drinking. What you already poured your glass. What are you drinking? I know what you're drinking, but you have to tell us.
Yeah, I was drinking this. It's something called Annabella, a Russian River Valley, Sonoma County Pinot Noir, vintage 2023. So there's this guy named Van. I call him Van the Man, Van the Wine Man, who I say, here's what I want. I just want something to sip, something nice. And so he recommended that one.
Okay.
I feel like I need to adjust my camera.
You're doing great.
I know. I feel a little like I'm fuzzy on the edges for some reason.
And I really like your I told you this the other day. I really like your choice of lenswear recently. Your complimentary eyeglasses, which match very well.
Well, yeah, I did this for you. I did the red for you. A red shirt, red glasses.
You know, it's my least favorite color.
What?
Red.
This red is?
Red, yeah. I'm full of quirks.
And red wine.
Okay, well, let's talk about my red wine. I'm drinking a dark red by 19 Crimes. Are you familiar with 19 Crimes?
Yeah.
I really like 19 Crimes. I've been drinking 19 Crimes since 2008, and I'm a big fan.
That looks like a bold red.
It is. I like big, bold reds. That's like
yeah. I'm not. I'm a wuss. I like the light ones. You know.
I'm particular with my wine. I don't need it to be super fancy, but I know exactly. I know what I like and I like, but I don't like super dry wine. So I actually don't like the stuff out of Italy, like the super Tuscans. I like how big they are, but they're so dry. They just, unless you're talking about like a really good Barolo and stuff. But this is like my easy, like $12 bottle of wine that I can drink. It's not overly powerful. I think it's 13.5% by volume or something like that.
Oh, that's not bad.
No, it's not, because if you put me on like a 14 or 14.5, I feel.
Oh, this one's
no
14.
Pain. I'm looking right here.
Mine is 14.
Oh, you're gonna be. Oh, that's good. We're gonna get the truth out of Karen tonight. Is what's gonna happen. This is my plan. I can't tell where this is.
I just want to say, if you're brave enough to ask the questions, I'll be brave enough to answer.
You know what? What's the old thing? Ask me no questions, I'll tell you no lies. So
yeah.
And I feel emboldened tonight because you listened to the pod that we did with Kevin Gannon, a fellow North Carolinian now.
Even Charlottean.
Charlottean. Have you seen him in person since he moved out there?
Yeah, a couple of times, but it's been a while.
He's great. I love him.
It's been a while. Yeah. I like Kevin. I really appreciate the work that he does.
I do, and I appreciate like the nobility with which he carries himself. He's just, in a world that feels like we're surrounded by fake people, Kevin's as real as it is.
Yeah.
And there's no apologies there. Not that he should, right? But it's like, this is Kevin, and he's not. And it's like, I love that he just challenges. Part of the reason why I ended up getting tattoos actually, was because he had tattoos. I was like, well, I'm a historian. Can I get tattoos? I was like, so I ended up getting this first pirate tattoo here because Kevin made it possible, right? Because he was like, here's a cool guy that does history, and he's got tattoos, and and I'm getting one, and he was very much in my head on that. So I hope that doesn't sound stalky, Kevin, if you're out there listening to my podcast, stalking my stuff. So, all right, we're doing a pod tonight, you and me. I've been on you about this for a while. I was like, hey, let's do this. And you were like, no, absolutely not.
Yeah, I don't know why, but okay.
So
I'm gonna go with it. I'm going to roll with it.
You do this because every time your name comes up, and I say your name all the time because I want to be famous, people just rave about how much they love it. I was talking to Julia Brock last night, who I adore, and she adores you. And there's like this whole like fit. You say that like you don't know that, and then literally last year at the Southern Historical Association, there's a whole thing about you there. I mean, so that's got to be a thing, right? I mean, are you just blissfully unaware of your influence on people?
I think that I suffer from imposter syndrome.
Okay.
And I think that is actually, like, I'm aware of what I've written. Mm-hmm. I'm aware of what I've accomplished. But on the day-to-day, I'm home, I'm walking my dog, and before my cat died, cleaning out the cat box. So I was just, a regular person. So often it's like, and I have neighbors and people who don't see me that way. Mm-hmm. And I think that I don't think about it really. I don't think about myself as someone that people look up to. I guess I don't think about that very much. And so it is kind of surprising to hear that, honestly. Again, because I do think it's a little bit of imposter syndrome because, I didn't go to the best schools. I didn't initially publish with what was considered the best Southern press, even though the book has won a prize and it's been very successful. Um, and yeah, and to be honest with you, I've, applied for jobs that no one would even consider me for because of those things, because of the so-called pedigree that I have. Although Neil McMillan, who won the Bancroft Prize, by the way, was one of my advisors. He wrote this book called Dark Journey. And one of the things he said was that after your first book, it won't matter where you went to school. I don't know if that's true, but I have continued to be productive. And I think in some ways that I'm driven by that imposter syndrome, that I feel like, and I've said this elsewhere, that I feel like, they say, like, if a shark stops swimming, it dies. I think I may be wrong about that. I don't know my science, but that's the idea, right? If I stop swimming, I'm going to die. And so I continue to find projects, work on things, small and large. And yeah, that's why, again, it comes from this place of not feeling good enough. And I think that I think intellectually I might know that. Emotionally, I don't always know that.
All right. Well, I have a couple thoughts on this. First and foremost, welcome to our new podcast, just called "You're on the Couch" with Jason and Karen. And tonight we're going to be working on our things. I'll tell you this: I was playing, because I'm an adult, playing video games about an hour ago on the Xbox. I was talking to my buddy Colin Colburn, who's been on the pod a few times. He does some really cool stuff, recovering old planes and downed vessels and things like that from the war. I said, "Hey, I'm recording a pod tonight." He's like, "Who's coming on?" I'm like, "Karen Cox." He goes, "Oh, Southern Miss." So he's like, I'm talking immediately. So, and I believe Colin went to Southern Miss. So, I want to get into this pedigree thing in a moment, because it really haunted me as well when I went to Wichita State. And then I kind of finally came to terms with that after the Southern this last year, because I had all my old professors who showed up for me. And I was like, oh wait, these people love me. Like there's a lesson there about learning to accept the love from people who are offering it to you. And that's like a really difficult thing in life. But Colin was like, yeah, Karen. So, and Colin doesn't do, he doesn't do Southern memory and stuff like that, but knew immediately who you were, right? And stuff. And I don't know if you've ever had any engagements with him or not, but I thought it was cool. I just said your name. It's like, oh yeah, Southern Miss. I was like, oh yeah. I mean,
a few of us who've done well.
Yeah. But okay, so so basically tonight what I wanted to do, and I'm going to try not to make you feel all weird about this, but because you mean so much to so many people in the field, I thought it would be really cool. You're emeritus professor now. You're still doing what I call the work, Karen. But you're an emeritus professor. You have an entire career, that you've worked on and things like that. So many people looked up to you, and I feel like there's sometimes this need to kind of humanize our heroes, because people like, oh wow, she's done these things and she's written these books and she's spoken here and blah blah blah. I'm like, but they don't know, Karen, the shit you've been through. They don't know how hard it was, or the delights, or anything, or the things that pop in here, like, you know what, I love these histories, or these are the people who influence me and stuff like that, right? Like, and that's what I wanted to kind of get down to the heart of tonight. And I'll tell you this, like, I did no prep on this at all, because I wanted us to like talk about, you and I are friends, obviously, but you know what I mean? It's like, I wanted us to have this real conversation about your career as a scholar, your own thoughts are scholars people? I don't even know. But you get the idea. So let's backtrack. So you're now emeritus, right? At UNC Charlotte. Is that correct?
Right. But I use the female version of that, emerita.
Thank you. I'm sorry. This is where we're going to go now. No, I shall hide into my... I thought emerita was the plural.
I think it's...
I don't know. All right, let's... All right, so you're emerita.
Well, somebody would want to call that in and correct it, that's fine.
Are people going to call us in? If you're going to call in, you need to have at least one glass of wine in your hand at this very moment, preferably not while you're driving to work. Where are you from originally? You and I are both from the South, correct?
I'm from, I would say Appalachia, which I don't always say is part of the South. I'm originally from Huntington, West Virginia, and but my family landed in North Carolina in Greensboro, and when I was about 12 years old. So I still have family in West Virginia. Now it's just mainly my cousins. I lost my favorite aunt last year, and she was the reason I continued to go to West Virginia, primarily her. I mean, she's the one that kept me at least, up to date on that side of the family. And, just that connection with West Virginia. And most people who are from there would tell you that how important that is, even if you were only born there and you moved away and you're only 1 month old. There is this feeling of that you are connected to Appalachia, you're connected to West Virginia and to the people. And so, yeah, at the same time, Huntington would not have been a good place for me to grow up in necessarily because of its economic issues, drug issues. A lot of the industry that was there has gone away, and that's left this vacuum where younger people have become addicted to any number of drugs. But there was a documentary just came out a few years ago called Heroin, with the E in parentheses on the end. It was about 3 women who were trying to address the heroin epidemic in Huntington because it was I think there were more overdoses in that city than anywhere else in the United States.
I really reckon with this because I feel like a lot of ways, Karen, it feels the same way. We'll get into your experience in my hometown, right? But same idea, right? Like, yeah, you're from a place and then you leave, but you still have these ties there.
Oh, yeah.
I like to say in my own line of work out here with the Forest Service, when I'm talking about tribes, I'm like, if I ask you who you are, the first thing you'll do is tell me where you're from, and I don't have a lot of experience in West Virginia, but do you go back there at all? Do those ties remain? Is there a reason for you to go back to Huntington?
There are fewer because when my aunt died, that made one less.
Yeah.
I do have my cousins there, and not all, most of them live there in West Virginia, whether it's in Huntington or it's in other parts of the state. But really, because I've been gone so long, I don't have those deep connections with them like I would like to have. I did have that with my aunt because she knew me since I was born. But I'll tell you this. I drew up a will, a few years ago. And one of the things I said I wanted was to be cremated and to take my ashes back to West Virginia.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Put me back in my roots on some mountain in West Virginia.
Can I show you a thing?
Sure.
I was actually having this conversation with Julia Brock last night. So we have a story. I think my whole family comes from a line of cat fishermen. We are on trout lines in Tennessee and Cumberland Rivers in Western Kentucky. These are my grandfather's ashes, right? Now in. So if you're listening in, this is a kind of a plastic catfish kind of thing that my aunt's husband made that they put my grandfather in, and of course, he was, they had him as well. It's but it was like this connection to this cycle of coming back to the earth. And I wonder, Karen, because myself, I wrestle with Kentucky so much. It's weird, I'm such a proud and vocal Kentucky guy, right? First thing you see about me is that I'm Kentucky. But when I think about where I would be buried, I'm put me in the ocean, right off the coast of Jupiter, Florida. That's or in Puerto Rico, someplace, I need the water for me. But that was a thing, there's still ocean in Kentucky. I don't know. And stuff. So, all right. So
my preference is anybody says, do you like to go to the beach or the mountains? It's always the mountains for me.
See, you've got it easy in North Carolina because you've got both. You have.
Yeah, I do have both. But if I get to choose, it's going to be the mountains.
I've only recently come to terms with living in the mountains, as you know. Like, and this is a thing now where I'm like, am I? Yeah, somebody referred to me as a fellow Southerner. Or James Brooks referred to me as a Southerner the other day. I was like, no, James, I'm now a Westerner, and I think I made him laugh pretty good about that because I've been pushing back on this whole idea of the mountains and stuff. Tell me about North Carolina. Like, you moved there when you're 12, right? So this would have been 1970s. Is that correct?
Yeah, 70, 74, I think, something around there. Yeah. Oh, it was interesting because I'd never gone to school with African American children.
Really?
Yeah, and I'm hitting it right at the time, right, like a year after the Swan decision about busing. That actually took place here in Charlotte, but it was very tense in the school setting, and and I don't think it had to do with the students so much as what their parents were feeding them. And so it was very much a different kind of place for me to be. It was really different. But and then I think, if I think back about it, my mother was married to this man who, my stepfather, who I think was probably racist. And so we ended up moving out into the county. We participated in white flight, in other words. And so I went to a county school, and yeah. I mean, all that's kind of a blur. I mean, if you were to ask me, what do you remember from that time? I would tell you, I remember what a horrible person my stepfather was.
I'm sorry.
Yeah. So, but by the time I got into high school, I think, and I think that relationship I had with my stepfather is part of my imposter syndrome. And so when I, got to high school, I think I did recognize that I did well in history. I really loved that as a topic, right? But it was a constant feeling of inadequacy. And so it shouldn't be a surprise. If you understood that, then you wouldn't be surprised by my surprise when you tell me, oh, so-and-so really loves you, or whatever.
Isn't it odd, though, that you could live your entire life? And I feel very much the same way in a lot of ways, Karen. I get teased sometimes for posting like gym pics and stuff like that, right? But in my own head, I'm still the nerdy high school boy who could not get a girlfriend. It's like it still sticks with me that I was the third chair trombone player in Callaway County High School marching band, right? And stuff. And for me, I think maybe part of the reason why you and I get each other so much is because I think we very much understand, without ever talking about it, this sense of like, I don't know about you, but I had very much this need to prove myself once I got to a certain spot. Once I was like, no, I'm going to show all y'all. Once I started to get a bit older. Can we talk a little bit about?
I think there's just this need to be, what is the word I wanted to say? It's like for someone to acknowledge you and acknowledge your success, or just give you like a little pat on the back or something. When you don't have it, it's like, a real deficit in your life, I think.
So much for me was like trying to find somebody who would love me. My father wasn't around. My stepdad, who I got on with after he and my mom got divorced after my sister died, turned out to be this really sweet, gentle guy that I came to know much later in life, right? But then, like, I never found anyone who like would marry me. I go to graduate school. My advisor hates me. David and I just fought nonstop, and I'm like, when when am I going to find that person, right? Or find someone to like you're saying, validate me. And it's just odd. It's so hard to like have that internal validation. Some people have it, and I just always marveled at that like internal reassurance because I never felt like I could get there.
Yeah. No, it's tough because you do seek approval, or you feel like you're not good enough.
Yeah.
And that probably drove me more than anything. Oh, you're not good enough. You didn't go to the best. You didn't go to the best schools. You didn't go. One book isn't enough,
right?
Right. It's not enough. It's not good enough. You're going to have to publish 2,
and then 3,
and then. But again, it's that whole shark analogy I was given earlier about if you stop, you're going to die, kind of thing. And that's probably too much pressure to put on yourself. And I'm sure I feel it sometimes. At the same time, it like gives me life in a way, that I continue to be curious, intellectually curious, and want to write. Yeah. But at the same, and this is part of the reason that I got clearly had become disenchanted with academia, and I retired a year ago. I probably could have taught a few more years easily, but I didn't want to. I really did want to focus on research and writing because that's what brings me joy. And yeah.
I have so many questions. We're going to get all the way there. I'm going to try to see if I can't get you to step us through how you got to where you are, if we can, and go. Obviously, Karen, go over where you went with this as you're pouring your glass. Like,
you heard that.
Of course, I felt it.
This is a good microphone. I just
see. Okay. Can we return back to high school for a moment while we're reveling in our nerdery?
Oh God. Okay.
Do you remember? Because this is what I find fascinating, right? Or one of the fascinating things when I talk to people is like, when did you encounter history? Was there was there a grade? Was there a topic? Was there what was it? Well before you became a scholar, well before you said, I'm going to go do this. Was there a moment where like, this is neat. I kind of like doing it. Like, were you 7th grade, high school? Did this happen later?
I know this is going to sound really stupid.
Go on. This is,
well, first of all, I did have an 8th grade teacher who was fantastic.
Okay.
And I think the first little paper I'd ever wrote was in the 8th grade was about Thomas Jefferson.
Okay.
I don't know what I wrote about, but there you go. And then in high school, there was a teacher that I really liked. And I remember reading things like historians, and I thought they were like men in lab coats. I was like, who are these people? Do they all work in one building? What is... And not really kind of having a concept of what a historian is or does and that kind of thing. And so, and I did have, the coaches who taught history. I mean, my God. I mean, I know
high school football coach.
Yes, but you know how some people have had good experiences. They want to defend.
Sure.
Yeah, but I would say on the whole, most people will say they did not have a good experience with the high school football coach / history teacher. So that was that. I mean, I can't say that I was like, I don't know. I didn't do that well in high school, to be honest with you. I think, I was a B student and I had, shit going on at home that wasn't good for me. And so that was probably more top of mind than academia or academics or whatever in school, not academia, of course.
Okay. So you get through high school, right? Are you looking immediately, by the grace of God, right?
Yes.
Are you looking immediately to bail out of town? Are you sure? Where did you go for undergrad?
Yeah.
Were you like, what was that process like? Were you like, I need to get away from mom and this guy or this town? I need to go find myself, or did you stay close to home?
Well, I
What did you
just
do?
started, I kind of wanted to not be left out. And so I followed along and went to Appalachian State for a year where I drank liberally and didn't, and basically bombed out. I did terrible.
Yeah.
But
thank you for that, by the way. No, seriously, I hope that people, if there are graduate students out there or students out there who are listening to this, please understand so many of these like scholars, including myself, bombed. Like the path
totally
is not
bombed.
just like this rock star path.
No.
So
I
tell
totally
us how awful
bombed.
life was.
For me, it was like it was the freedom away from my home.
Yeah.
That's all I was interested in. I think about, when I look back on it, that was it. I didn't have anybody breathing down my neck, saying things that made me feel, less than whatever, I was, it was just freedom for me. That's what it was. It represented freedom. But freedom, that freedom wasn't going to last if I couldn't keep up with the grades. So I came home, and what I did for the next 2.5 years was work as a secretary.
Oh
Man, that was brutal because I could type really fast.
Mm-hmm.
So that could get me a job. That was a skill that could get me a job. And so what I did, I worked in, oh God, I don't know all the different places I worked, but that's basically what it was. I was doing kind of clerical type work, but I realized that I was smarter than the people I was working for and decided to go back to school. And I started out part-time from home at UNC Greensboro. And I had to live with that stepfather during that time, but I kind of threw myself into it and, was reminded by him that the reason they couldn't help me was because they were already helping me by allowing me to live at home for free. So I was reminded of that. And so I had to borrow money to go to school in my
your hometown.
But I did really well. I had good professors, and they saw something in me and said, what are you going to do next? And encouraged me to go into the master's program at UNC Greensboro.
Mm-hmm.
And that was Bob Calhoun, who taught the American Revolution, and he wrote a book about loyalists, and he was just a lovely man, and he's the one that said that, and I thought, okay, I'm going to do it. I'm going to apply, but I knew I couldn't live at home anymore. I mean, that was just beyond. I couldn't do that because it was too stressful on me. If I wanted to succeed, I had to just get out of there. And so I managed that. But I remember taking class with Bill Link. Bill Link became my thesis advisor, but I was in there and I thought, holy shit, this is like going from I don't know, 0 to 60, right?
Sure.
Like you think you're done something as a bachelor's degree student. You haven't done anything until you get into grad school. And it was like, oh my God, I was a little overwhelmed. And I think I was taking 3 classes, and I think I may have even had an assistantship. I don't remember, but I remember I was like, I was about to walk over and just bow out, pull out of the program. And there was a secretary in the history department who said, well, you don't have to do that. You can just take a couple of classes and still be full time. And somehow that just like calmed my nerves.
Yeah.
And it was great. And that's what I did. And once I made it through the first semester, I realized I was fine. I'm going to be fine all the way through. And I'm really glad I did that. And I lived, really close to the school. I could walk to my classes. And yeah. And I will say, there were really, really solid people who were professors at UNC Greensboro. There was Bill Link, John D'Amelio was there, who's like, and Alan Trelease, who was a historian. He wrote this great book called White Terror about the Ku Klux Klan. And so there were just solid people there. Bob Calhoun, all these people who were there that were really just, good to learn from. And so that's what I, did. And I didn't immediately think I'm going to go for a doctoral program. I'm not going to go for the PhD. I actually instead applied for a job with a museum in Fayetteville, North Carolina. Woo, to think I went there. Anyway, but it was like I had taken public history courses, museum studies courses, and I thought I kind of liked it. I'd done some internships while I was in the program at Greensboro, and then I got this job. It was a state job. My salary is $19,000 a year.
You were bawling. Was it in the 80s, early 90s? When was this been?
It was 88.
88, okay.
Okay, so yeah, I don't even know what that translates into. But I went there and I was a historian. I did research and I wrote essentially what you would call white papers. And those papers were used by the exhibit designer, the education person, in order to develop programming or to develop the exhibits themselves. And it was a great, great, great experience. I worked on all kinds of exhibits. And it really kind of fed my interests in material culture. And I've always loved public history. I like that public engagement that it brings. And and I've remained interested in that. And then I was like, okay, I was there for a couple years. I was like, Fayetteville, peace out. I'm out of here. For people who are not familiar with Fayetteville, North Carolina, is a huge Army base and an Air Force base there. And if you weren't in the military or you weren't a hometown person, you didn't fit in to that place. And so I went back to UNC Greensboro. I took a job with the in special collections and did that for a year before I headed down to Mississippi.
All right, so here's what I love. You've done all this like real world stuff, right? You were a secretary. You were typing. No, and I found when I got to graduate school, when I got to Minnesota, I was like 37 and going through a divorce. It's an awesome time for my life. And there was at times a tension for me between myself and like 26-year-old students who kind of came straight up through high school, undergrad, graduate program, whatever, just and good for them, right? And again, I'm always saying there's no one way to do this. There's lots of different stuff, but I was like, don't tell me about life when you haven't lived it yet. It was a really, I was really grouchy at that point in time. It was hard for me, but I often sometimes, Karen, feel like we need to almost have like a gap year for our historians so they could go and get some actual lived experience, because how are you supposed to talk about the humanity of humans if you haven't met them yet?
Yeah, I agree with that. I've thought that a lot because I would meet people and I would be thinking, man, like you need some real world experience because you do not know what's happening out there, with your students.
Yeah.
If you teach at Southern Miss or you teach at UNC Greensboro, these public institutions, a lot of those students are first gen.
Yeah.
A lot of them have jobs. They're doing whatever they can, like I did, in order to make ends meet. And there needs, I think that honestly, having had that experience actually benefited me in the classroom and with my teaching, because I knew, that there were always going to be those students that were like me. I'm first gen. I was working to put myself through school. It wasn't always easy. Plus, we never know what people are going through. We really don't. And, people need grace. Students need grace.
Thank you. Thank you for saying that. You're so absolutely right. Right. And the empathy is like, I always say, Karen, I think this is one of the reasons why I think you and I befriended each other. It's like there's this idea that smart people don't impress me, Karen. We're surrounded by smart people. We know tons and tons and tons of smart people in this profession. Kind people. Kindness is what, and I feel like sometimes that gets lost in the profession. Why Southern Miss? Like, you decide to go, you were like, you know what? I'm not South enough. I start off in Appalachia. I'll work my way down to North Carolina. I'm like, no, this is not it. I need to go farther south.
I'll give you the honest answer.
Please.
I didn't get into UNC Chapel Hill. I didn't get into UVA.
I got rejected from those schools too.
I did get into a couple of other schools. I actually applied University of Kentucky and got in, but I didn't get any money. Ohio State, got in, but no money. And I thought, meh. And then Bill Link actually recommended Southern Miss because Marjorie Sproul was teaching there.
Mm-hmm.
And she had finished up her book on Southern suffragists, and there was some overlap in our history interest. And I met her at a little mini conference on North Carolina women's history while I was still working at the museum. And she was just like, come work with me. She was just so friendly and welcoming. And I didn't at first, like, I got it. They didn't give me a assistantship right away. And I thought, well, I guess that's out, And then 2 weeks before the semester started, the chair of the department called me and said, we have an assistantship. Do you want to come? And I said, yes. And I had 2 weeks to basically pack up everything I had. I had a little red Isuzu truck. And I put a little hood on it, on the back, and a little cover for the truck bed, and a little U-Haul, and I headed to Hattiesburg sight unseen.
Wow!
And that's how that went.
Can we talk a little bit about where you are mentally as far as a scholar? You're obviously thinking about the South at this point in time. What's by the late 80s, like what's being written there that's kind of starting to turn your head as a thinker? We'll talk a little bit later on about like the stuff that you're interested in now. But were there foundational pieces, Karen, that you read that you started thinking about? Because for people listening, Karen writes a lot about Southern memory and all this stuff. Like what was there stuff that you were like, this is cool. This is what I want to do.
Well, I mean, I think that's changed over time, but initially it was just a women's history class.
Okay.
That was so new to me in the 80s. Like, it was like, and it was relatively new, and there was some stuff on Southern women. Like, I mean, mainly the big book on Southern women was Anne Ferris Scott's The Southern Lady.
Mm-hmm.
That was like the Bible for so many people for a long time. And then, you begin to see people branching out. And I think that, I had landed on the topic that I wrote about when I was working at the museum on the United Daughters of the Confederacy. But in terms of just, I guess the field itself was like, I think what it was is that I was interested in my surroundings. I'm living in the South. How does the South develop into what it is? And that could be, and my thesis was on women's education, planter daughters, and how they became educated. But that was because I lived in the South. I was near the two major archives of the South at University of North Carolina and Duke University. So really for me, it was like, I was curious about what was around me, where I lived. And that was it. I mean, I'm very, very interested in local history. I'm interested in bigger things, but I am interested in what the local story has to tell you about the larger story of the United States. And so, I can't pinpoint something right now in terms of a book. But it was really more the field itself.
I can't help but notice, Karen, that you're a woman. And I'm wondering, we tend to think of history, I think for the longest time, as like an old boys club. I mean, that was the reputation for a lot of these organizations and things like that. Were there, Karen, as you're coming up as a scholar, as you're developing and things like that, were there many women professing, or were you kind of joining this new cadre of women who were kind of emerging as scholars? I kind of wonder what that was like as a woman going into like this old boys club. Like, are you having to fight for your place? Did you feel at times a tension because you're a woman doing history? What was that like?
There was only one. I only took one course with a woman.
Mm-hmm.
That was the women's history course. As when in my master's program, of course, I took courses with Marjorie when I got to Southern Miss, but she was kind of it. Yeah, so I didn't, and not to say that there weren't the men who taught Southern history weren't good. There were those good, they were. I was just drawn to the women's history from that first class because I'd never taken a women's history class. It's like, this was so interesting to me. I was like, what were women doing? It's like, in early women's history, it was generally about progressive women, not conservative women like I've written about. Mm-hmm. But there was a part of me was like, okay, what about those women over there? And so, and I think too, even that 1 year at Appalachian State, when I didn't do so great, I took a course with this guy. His name was Jim Winders. People know who he is if they went there and took a class. And he had us reading like a book that was about everyday people. It was like social history, right? It was about history from the ground up. And that really drew me in. I was like, that's cool. What about history from the ground up? Which is why I think I also liked women's history. It's like, okay, they're not usually the main figures in a history book. So now we've got that. And especially with the UDC, when I wrote about them, I'm like, they're kind of powerful in their own right, even when they don't have the vote. They're doing some things that are really significant, not in the best of ways either, but they're, they know their power and they know how to use it.
You, what did you end up writing your dissertation on?
The United Daughters of the Confederacy.
Do you want to talk a little bit about who they were? Just a 3-minute synopsis. I know who they are, but if you've never heard of the UDC, who's the UDC?
The UDC. People, can I just say, so many people call them DAR. I'm like, no, it's UDC. They get them mixed up because there are all these acronyms.
DAR? That's the wrong war.
I know, but people get them confused for some reason. Right. Or they'll just say, whatever. Anyway, United Daughters of the Confederacy. And I knew that was what I was going to write my dissertation on when I arrived at Southern Miss because of the work I'd done in the museum. I had met those women. I'd interviewed them, already had interviewed them. Before 1990, I'd interviewed these women.
Wow.
And women who had been in the organization since they were in the Children of the Confederacy. And they knew some of the early members of that organization. So I came into it knowing that, into my doctoral program, knowing that that was what I was going to write about. So the United Daughters of the Confederacy are essentially, they were the most influential women's organization in the South prior to World War I, maybe even after that. They influenced the culture of the South through their work in education, by writing history, and by erecting monuments. That's the thing that they're best known for, because there are monuments in almost every town square of the South. So they did that work as well. But, so they had a massive influence on shaping the culture of the South. And some of them were suffragists. Not all of them were, though. There was somebody, like Mildred Rutherford, who was a Georgian, who was the historian general of the UDC, ended up speaking before the Georgia legislature against women's suffrage. Now, think about that for a second.
That's some acrobatics.
Yeah. So that's what I say about the UDC. It's like they had a political power that wasn't necessarily the vote, but they knew how to use it. And the fact that it's just like she didn't even get this cognitive dissonance, of I'm going to go before the Georgia state legislature and plead my case that women do not need the right to vote. She's a pill. But anyway, yeah. And so that was they were a mixed bag. They came from all, different religions, but they tended to be well educated. They tended to be women who were from middle to upper middle to even upper class. A couple of them were daughters of senators. They had ties, political ties, so that even if they weren't voting, they knew how to, pull strings to get what they wanted.
You go on the job market. Where do you end up? If you're listening right now, you should see the face.
You just want to hear this, don't you?
I know the story.
You just want to hear me say
what?
Your alma mater's name.
Not my alma mater. I didn't graduate from Murray State.
Okay. You just gave it away there, Jason.
Well, let's blame the wine.
Okay, so well, you heard my talk last year.
Yes, I was in the back.
Screaming.
I did scream for you. Was that weird when I screamed?
When I said Murray State, but that was it. But
I was trying to impress a girl. Go on.
I'm sure she wasn't impressed by Murray State.
It's been a year. I promise you, she hasn't been impressed yet. Go on.
Okay, this is the time when it's time to smack you, Jason.
All right, go on. Keep talking, Murray State.
Okay, so I was at Southern Miss, and this professor said, "You'll never get a job." This new professor told me I would never get a job.
Oh my gosh.
And I was like, fuck you. Yes, I will. Because I'm like, oh yeah. And I got, my first job was at Murray State University. I got a tenure track position at Murray State, where I only stayed for a year because, god damn, this is in the middle of nowhere, and it was dry.
Wow. I'm right here, Karen. You're talking about my
home. It's dry.
You're talking about my homeland, my people.
Your homeland and people was dry as dust because there was no, my throat was parched for a whole year.
You had to drive to Puryear to get alcohol. You had to drive across the border, across the border from
into Paris. I went to Paris.
You went all the way to Paris?
Tennessee. almost to Paris,
Well,
maybe
Pryor is
not.
that
Just
first town
across.
after
Once you
Hazel.
cross the border into Tennessee, there was
Pryor.
a big giant,
The Big
store
Apple was
full
there.
of beer.
Yeah, and they had the Big Apple, which is now in Murray. Either way, you spent a year there, which was one of the years I was at Murray State, which is just crazy coincidences.
Yeah,
but
I was a miserable polecat, is what they say in West Virginia. A miserable polecat.
You know, my mom asked me, she's like, when are you coming home? And I'm like, why? Like, never. You know, I have no reason to go back to Murray. Like, I have my, childhood friends are there, but no, I get it. Right. So, but that's Karen, here's my point though. That's a scary thing, right? We're told in academia, and I know the job market was different in 1998 than it is in 2025, but to land to that tenure track job, and if you're listening in, Murray State's a fine regional school, and then to give it up. So what do you do? Like, did you have another job lined up, or did you like, I'm bailing, I'm going back to Greensboro? Like, what was the thought here?
Well, the thinking was like, I'm miserable in Murray, Kentucky, and also like I went to school to get a job to teach history in my field. I wasn't teaching history in my field. I was forced. It was a 4-4 teaching load at Murray State, 3 of which were world history. I'm a post-Civil War historian of the South. Yeah. So there was that.
Can we pause for a second?
And then what?
I was thinking today, I was wondering if I had you in class. And then I thought, no, I didn't take American history at Murray State. I took world history.
Please.
There is a very good chance I took you in class.
You probably were like, who is this bitch up here?
No, I was never taking. I was in the Baptist Student Union.
Ugh.
Trying to impress other girls and failing there too. This is the history of Jay. Karen, I think I can't figure out if I took you in class, but
I don't know.
It's possible.
Unfortunately, most of the professors in the department had to teach that class. But anyway,
okay, go ahead.
So I was like, you know what? I signed up I wanted to get a PhD in history to teach history, and that's what I want. But what I did not sign up for was misery.
Right. Good on you.
And I said, to hell with that. I'm out. And I went to Washington, D.C. I got a job with National History Day.
Okay.
In development, which is probably not my forte. But I went, and that was not good.
Does this story ever get better? Is my question.
I got fired from.
Okay. No, not so far.
I got fired from National History Day.
How do you get fired from National History Day?
Because the woman was like a closeted lesbian, and and she just like, I think she was like, this is too close for comfort.
I got fired from the Seminole tribe, and it was like this thing for the longest time where I was super embarrassed by it. And then I'm
not embarrassed by it. Honestly, I was, she did me a favor because I was having terrible acid reflux. And so because of the job. So really I just I bumped around. I taught part-time at George Mason. I talked about all of this in my talk last year in Kansas City.
Our listeners were not in Kansas City.
I know, but that's what I did. And I bumped around for a while. I went to teach at Mississippi University for Women for a semester, and I thought, oh God, why am I back here? I'm going back to DC. And I ended up working for a company called the History Factory.
Okay.
And they're for profit, so I made good money, and it was about, working with corporations to develop their archives, maybe develop corporate exhibits, et cetera, et cetera. And, I was there for a little while before, a year and a half or so. And then I got the job at UNC Charlotte.
Okay. And I want to talk a little bit about UNC Charlotte, because I want to make sure that I was going to wait to tell you this at the very end, but I wanted to talk, but I don't want to forget about it now. You were so incredibly good to me a few years ago. I had a student. I don't know if you recall this or not. I had a student trying to decide where they were going to go. They're trying to figure out where to go. And then I was like, I don't know what to tell the student. And this was like you know this. I loved my students when I was teaching high school. And this was my ride or die. And you were like, here's all the pluses. Here's just full on. So hey, if you need anything, have them call me, whatever, so forth. And the student ended up going to UNC Charlotte. Right. That's where they ended up going. And they're so happy there, and I see them all the time on social media, probably too often, now I'm judging because I'm seeing their boyfriend and I'm calling their mom. I'm like, what do we think about this guy? And so forth. I'm judgmental. I'm like, I'm Uncle Jay at this point in time. But it meant the world to me that you were kind enough to take care of this person, and you never met him and so forth, but this person who I dearly adored. And you were like, here, I'll make time for that, for the student who I've, never met. It meant the world to me. What year did you land in Charlotte?
2002.
Okay. 2002. It's now 2025 for you future people who have come across the podcast after the decline of Western civilization. Have you noticed, Karen, has there been a change in students over the 20 some odd years from the time that you arrived at UNC Charlotte to now?
I think yes and no. Okay. I think that there are factors that are changing how students experience the university setting.
Okay.
I think there have always been good students who are curious. They are, UNC Charlotte is like a lot of public institutions. You get a variety. You get students who are not as well prepared as others. And you'll have really smart students and some students who might have been better served elsewhere, maybe at the community college or something like that. My role there was to build a public history program, a graduate program in public history, and which was really, really successful. I mean, our students that went through this program have jobs all over the place. And so that's good. In terms of undergraduates, I think that what's happened over time, and I know that Kevin talked about this, is that, things are happening that are challenging our skill set as professors, right? There's the AI that's come into view, and there's also what students are interested in or how curious they might be or that kind of thing. So I think technology has certainly when people started bringing their phones to class, that was okay, this is a distraction. Then it became, and that was simple. Maybe they were just texting their friend. Now they're recording the professors. Yeah. It's so. And I feel like that there is, I don't know. I'm not really sure what it's about. Is it because of social media or whatever it is? It's this sense that we want something fast. We don't want it. We want a minute and a half to 3 minute video to teach me this lesson. And then I'm out because I want to go play foosball at the bar. I don't know. It's I'm not really sure what that is. It's how engaged students are and the ways in which they engage. And so you could see that happening over time. You could see I remember, coming to a point where I said, I was talking to the students. I said, when you took a test, a history test in your high school, was it multiple choice or did you write essays? Almost everybody raises a hand, multiple choice. And I'm that's not what history is about. You don't learn history by multiple choice. It's about thinking about what you've read and writing about it, right? Okay. So that happened. And then, I don't know, it got to be, was like, as I aged, I'm sure I was like, I do not want to learn all this new technology, because this is what happens. The administration throws that at you and says, you've got to learn this in order to teach this. And that's exhausting. And my love of history just was being like drowned out every single semester. And because either students were not fully prepared, they don't read anymore. That is for sure.
Yeah.
And then they, now that they're relying on AI to write their papers or even take tests, if they're online tests, and it's just sad for me. I think it's really sad. I don't know, but that's a bigger kettle of fish, right? Like I can't even begin to try to figure that out.
Well, it seems to me, Karen, like we're talking about, like it certainly evolved in this customer service model. So you talk about when the phone starts showing up in the classroom, and I'm in the process right now. I was talking to some tribal members. There's a couple academic jobs I've decided I'm going to apply for right now, right? Places that really move me. They're doing really good stuff that I continue working with the tribes that I'm working with right now. And I'm like, I'm going to write a syllabus for these courses, right? I don't want technology in my classroom at all. No phone, no laptop, no nothing, right? I want you, bring your book, right? And we're going to dive in and we're going to do these things. And when I say this, people are like, you're naive, Jason, because it's like telling students the word no doesn't seem to be part of the option anymore. Like the accommodations of, hey, you can have your phone, you can have your thing, you can have extra time, you can do whatever. The online courses, I don't feel teach it anything at all. Do you think, is it an issue? And I'm asking you now because you have the privilege of no longer being at the university teaching full time. How do we, I guess, reassert control over the classroom as far as the things that we're teaching and actually foster? And ultimately, what we're trying to do here is like foster this atmosphere of learning, right? I mean, it sounds to me like we're telling me it's like, this was being taken away from me because I love teaching the students, and now I'm not teaching. I'm doing this other thing.
I can only speak for myself. Please. And my experience at UNC Charlotte, and I think it would be different depending on whether you were at a public institution, a private institution, whether you're at a small liberal arts college or, a full, on university. What I found is it's like there is no institutional support for the kind of instruction that you're talking about and the kind that I would like to do about, diving into books and things like that. They just don't back you up on it. And they want, and the other thing, because of the customer service model, because of what I call the corporate model of a university, they're so concerned about, as they would say, butts in seats. They want to be sure that you are keeping those students there in whatever way you can do, because of the revenue stream that they represent. And so, yeah, that's, I don't know. The last course I ever taught, I think one of the last courses I ever taught was an online class. And I didn't enjoy it. Neither did the students. I mean, it was just a disaster. And I don't know, what the answer is. Honestly, Jason, it's not my problem.
Sure.
No longer my problem.
Okay.
And, God bless Kevin Gannon for reading all the books and trying to figure it out and make things better for instructors. But I had to say peace out because I didn't enjoy it anymore.
Okay.
No longer enjoyed it. I mean, there's other things that were going on, but I no longer enjoyed it. And so I just want to write books. for whoever is going to read it, I don't know. But I'll tell you what, though, I did write No Common Ground for students and for community activists, my book on Confederate monuments, because I wanted to write something that wasn't long, was easily accessible. They could understand the concepts that I was putting out there. And I'm really proud of that because a lot of people do adopt the book and a lot of students like the book. And community activists have read the book. And I've been invited to speak to these groups. And so I feel like I am still teaching in a different kind of way through the research and writing that I do. Also, I'm willing to be on a podcast with you, Jason.
Thank you for lowering yourself for that.
No, I've done a lot of podcasts, and actually, I think they're really useful.
Mm-hmm.
And one of the Teaching Hard History podcast, that was like, to me, they did like, it was chef's kiss what they did with that. They edited it so well. It was such a good podcast, and it is such a good podcast. And I think that those kinds of things are the things that are important to me. I do want to, I think a lot about other ways of teaching. Podcasts, TikTok, Reels, whatever it might be. I don't know. I think we're all throwing jelly at the wall.
Ooh, I like this expression. Can we talk a little bit about No Common Ground? Essentially because, you're talking about this idea that you're no longer in the classroom, you're no longer teaching these students, but Karen, from the outside, it seems like you've made this very conscious pivot to talking to wider audiences beyond the classroom, whether it was through that book or now through TikTok, Instagram, social media, things like that. Is there a place for history in social media? You talked about establishing that public history program at UNC Charlotte. But, when I talk to people about public history, or, whenever I would go on for like public history jobs and things like that, I found that the whole social media component or anything like that is completely oblivious to so many scholars. And you're very much showing that it's a really necessary component to what we're doing. Can you talk about like why you decided to like hit record on these things?
Well, I first of all, it's not for everybody. I mean, let's be honest. Not everybody is meant to do a podcast, to do a TikTok, to be, where we all were for a while on Twitter or now Blue Sky or Threads. I can't keep up with that. In some ways, I feel like there's already been a shift. I'm not on Threads. I mean, I know a lot of people are and they like it. And I'm like, but not me. I mean, like, so... in a way, I've done some TikToks. I don't think I'm that good at it. There are people who are really good at it, it's just like, I'm trying to, I'm figuring it out, right? Like how do I reach the broader audience, and, I don't know. I'm like, I think it's good to have trained historians sharing information in those spaces. Okay, whether it's TikTok or it's Instagram Reels or whatever. Because there aren't enough of us, right? Like you and I and half of the United States have watched Heather Cox Richardson just blow up, right? Like she recognizes the importance of being a historian, reaching the broader audience. And she's very good at it. And she, it didn't start on video. It's now branched into video.
She's easily the best at this.
She's awesome. And, when people say, are you related to Heather Cox Richardson? I'm like, no, I just wish I were. Maybe we have an ancestor way back when, but I'm like, that what she does is really powerful. She's very good at it. And I'm not that good, but I try, I get out there and do my TikToks on the things that I know about. And so, yeah, I actually think there is a place for historians in these spaces there are several people who do it really well. A lot of people are not comfortable with it, and that's okay, because I think there's a place for everyone. Like, if your strength is in the classroom, yay. If your strength is public speaking, yay. Or is it over here in these social media spaces? Good. I think that if I think about the ways in which my public facing work began, it began with a blog, which is now sort of like, man, what's that?
What are words?
A blog is now a Substack, basically, is what it is. Right. So I started blogging when after my second book came out, and because UNC Press said, would you write a couple of blogs to support your book, which was Dreaming of Dixie? And I liked it. And I started writing a blog I call Pop South, which is about the South and popular culture. And I wrote a lot. I kept it for 5 years. I still keep it live because I want, people to access it if they want it. And that got me into like, oh, how do I write for a public audience? Because I'm writing something that's short and to the point. And then I started writing op-eds. And the op-eds are really like took me into a different stratosphere, honestly. I mean, the very first op-ed I wrote for the New York Times was about reality television.
Barging in
and
on my
its
turf
focus
here.
on the South. What's that?
You're barging in on my turf here. I'm a TV guy.
No, but it was about the South and reality TV.
What's that show?
And so
there's this show right now. It's like complete trash drama TV. It's like a Real Housewives, only it's something else. It's
there've been lots of trashy reality television shows set in the South.
Yes,
I could go through a number of them, but anyway, I did that, and I've written, I don't know how many at this point, maybe 7 or 8 op-eds for the New York Times, several for CNN, a couple for the Washington Post, one for Smithsonian. I'm like, so I thought, first of all, I'll never break into the New York Times.
Mm-hmm.
Now I've written several
you just write for them.
for the New York Times. I'm like, but I think I'm good at it because I'm good at distilling something down to its essence in 1,000 words.
Sure.
And that came from blogging. Okay. That's how I learned to do that. Well, of course the universe has shifted. People are doing Substacks now, but I'd be damned if I'm going to start a Substack, because honestly, like, I'll be like tapping out within a few years because I just can't do it. God bless Heather Cox Richardson for doing that.
I write mine. It takes a lot of time.
It does take a lot of time. It does. I mean, I think like at this point, Heather's Letters from an American are like, she's nimble at it now. She's just like, she knows exactly how to do this well, right? Like, and so I don't want to do that. And so I was like, well, what's a little easier for me to do? So I started doing TikTok, although that was also a learning curve. It was like, who am I on there? And what's funny is because Twitter was like that for me at first. It's like, who am I on this platform? I don't even know about this platform so much. Who am I going to be? And then I figured it out, and I'm steadily like working through TikTok to figure it out. I don't think I like it there all the time. Although I've been doing this little series about the lost cause just because, I don't know why, just because I'm just doing it. And, but I'll probably tap out of that for a while because I'm also trying to write a book. So there you go.
I find that with TikTok, and it's a space I haven't mastered yet, it's like it requires such a high level of production value to like keep people engaged. The quick cuts, the graphics, things like that. And I'm just, for what I'm doing now, Karen, it's the Substack, it's the podcast, it's so much.
a
And I've got a
lot.
TikTok because I kind of felt like it became like an obligation.
Well, here's the thing. I don't think it requires all of that. Like Tad Sturmer has like 240,000 followers. There's this guy, Dr. C. He's got 170,000 followers. And they're just talking into the camera with a message, a history message.
Sure.
And
Tad's not willing to go. Tad is willing to go pick a fight. Like, and that's
he does that. And and like there are other people. I'm like, they're doing, the woman who does Yesterqueer, Amanda Simpson.
I follow her. Yes.
I don't know. I'm sorry, I can't remember her last name. Sorry, Amanda. But she has something called Yesterqueer, where she tells the history of the LGBTQ community, and I'm like, she's great, and her audience is growing. And I remember seeing not long ago, and he posted it on Blue Sky of all places, but Jamel Bowie, who writes for the New York Times, he's just
it's great,
badass. He's so smart, and he has a TikTok account, and he's great.
Yeah.
He's really good with it. But he said in this post on Blue Sky about how much higher his engagement is on TikTok or Instagram Reels than it is in any other place. And he is right, because I know I could post something on Blue Sky and get 6 likes. I post something on TikTok and I might, let's just say views. Okay. I'm on TikTok. I might get like several hundred on something. And there have been a few of them where I've got several thousand. And I remember one of my talks on the UDC has like over 12,000 views. It's crazy. So and I think I learned this too, Jason, like several years ago when I did this Vox video that has over like 4.3, 4.4 million views on YouTube that was about the United Daughters of the Confederacy. I'm like, I'd like $1 for every one of those views.
I'll take 50
and
cents,
I would just be like, peace out. I'm going to the Mediterranean.
Can I ask you, we talked a little bit about some of the things that influenced you as an emerging scholar. Who now? You have the liberty, and you know so many people in the field.
We're going beyond the time limit. I'm going to just pour my wine.
Like
listen, Jason.
We have an ounce limit, and the ounce limit is a 1.5 liter bottle of wine right here. So now I'm like, all right, drink your wine now. Tell me what you think about scholars.
1.5?
Yeah, that's what this is.
That's not just a regular bottle.
Oh,
1.5 is like 2.5 bottles, Jason.
Well, I'm a big, strong man, capable of destroying most Reconstruction scholars. So Karen knows what I'm talking about. Just painfully. I could just whatever. This actually says bold. That's what I am. I'm bold right here on the thing. So now I've got you drinking. Let's talk about. Let's spill the tea. Let's spill the tea. Who do you like as a scholar? I'm not going to ask you who you don't like.
Like currently?
Yeah, like when you read out there, because now you have the ability, Karen, to read whatever you want. Is there stuff out there, whether it's in your field or not, that you find like, hey, this person's doing really great stuff?
All right.
Because you're going to make somebody's day when you start name dropping them, and I want to help be part of that.
Okay. I just started Heather.
Absolutely.
Thompson.
She's another. Oh yeah, Heather Thompson.
She's my friend, so I don't
really know her well. I think she and I are nominally friends, but I would like to know her better because I've seen her stuff, and I think she's really good.
Well, she was on the hiring committee that hired me at UNC Charlotte.
Well, there you go. All right.
Yeah.
All
right.
Who do you like?
Who do I like? Oh God! Right now,
Yeah.
It's going to be friends of mine.
That's okay. There's probably a reason why they are friends of yours. Do you know Antoine Hunter?
What?
Do you know Antoine Hunter over at UNC? He's got a book coming out. He's good people.
No, but
all right, go ahead.
All right. I like. Sometimes when I really like a book and I don't even know the person, I will write them and tell them. I email them.
That's the nicest thing to do, right? People never mind being told that they're doing good things.
I remember writing to Stephanie Ewell, who teaches at Holy Cross, when she wrote this book several years ago called A Golden Haze of Memory, which was about Charleston, South Carolina, because I just liked it.
Sure.
And Talitha LaFloria's book on women on, I'm sorry. Is it Chains of Silence? I can't remember. It's about women in the penal system in Georgia. I was like, this book is fucking awesome.
That's cool.
And I wrote her. I said, this is going to win all kinds of prizes. And it did. I mean, when I see something, I go, oh, wow. All right. So I just started reading Carrie Lee Merritt's biography of Lillian Smith, which is not available to the public yet.
I haven't read that yet because
it's coming out next. It's coming out next year.
I'm embarrassed she hasn't been on the pod yet. I haven't asked her to be on the pod.
You ought to be embarrassed.
She's amazing. I quote her all the time.
Well, get with it, Jason.
Well, okay. All right, go on.
All right, let me finish. All right, let me tell you.
Oh, she's getting spicy.
No, listen.
I'm listening.
I just read the intro in the first chapter. This is brilliant.
Carrie Lee?
And I'm going to read the whole thing, of course, but it's so beautifully written. And Lillian Smith is a person that everyone needs to know because she was such a radical liberal in the American South as a white woman. It's like she was friends with MLK Jr. I mean, she's like, and so Carrie Lee is uncovering her life story and making those connections. Anyway, that's a book to be looking out for. Okay, I love my friend and I love the way she writes. Alicia Long from LSU. You should have her on your pod. But anyway, Alicia is a beautiful writer, just a beautiful writer. And she's now the chair of the history department at LSU, but she started working on some historical fiction last year, which cool. I like it's a little pivot, right? And but her books on like prostitution in New Orleans, it's got The Great Southern Babylon, and then her book Cruising for Conspirators about the JFK assassination, the way it was prosecuted as a sex crime. Really good stuff. Really, really, really good. Who else? Who else do I like? Oh my gosh.
I know people you're forgetting.
Oh God. Oh my God. What are you going to tell them? Huh? Hillary's got a fantastic book on Black Civil War memory, which is, we've not known about, like we've not had the scholarship on, so I'm happy for her.
Can I tell you about Hillary? Here's my problem with Hillary Green. Are you ready? Here's my soundbite for Hillary Green.
I hope she's listening.
I'm going to post a clip of this later just to embarrass her because I love Hillary so very much. Hillary and I are the same age. We're like a month or two apart, something like that.
And she's my wine buddy.
What am I? Chopped liver? I don't know what to talk about here. I'm literally your buddy drinking wine right now.
Yeah, but we do it in person.
I had wine with Hillary. I'm just thinking, whatever. Anyway, this is called Jason's Inadequacy Show right now. Hillary and I are the same age. She is so much smarter than me. So beyond incomparably, like when I talk to Hillary, like I am like, okay, I'm hanging out with Hill. I have to think now. I have to be on this level of human because she's that good. And I'm like, it's exhausting for me. It's like playing pickup basketball for 16 hours or something like that. I'm completely exhausted. Every time I finish talking to Hillary, I have to go take a nap because I'm just trying to keep up.
She's great.
All right, who you got?
Kidada Williams.
Oh, I've got her book. Hillary actually sent me her book, one of her books.
Kidada Williams is fantastic.
Haven't had the pleasure of meeting her.
What is the book that's like, I Saw Death Coming,
That's
which was
what Hillary sent me.
Yeah, I think it may have been a long listed for the National Book Award or something like that.
Right.
She is fantastic.
Okay.
I love her and her work. And yeah, she's great. Gosh, I didn't think I was going to get put on the spot. And then of course I'll think of several people afterward.
Well, I hope they're all offended right now.
No, but they're, Francoise Hamlin, who was my co-editor of the Boundless South series, wrote a book called Crossroads at Clarksdale. And she's a civil rights historian, and she's really good, and I love Francoise. And
isn't that where Sinners was set? Was Clarksdale?
What's that? Didn't
Sinners take place in Clarksdale?
I think you're right. Yes, exactly. So, I don't know. Here's the thing. I think that right now, what I'm appreciating are historians who are doing their damnedest to write for the public, because that's what we have to do. We can't be like, this may piss people off, and honestly, I don't care.
This is why I got you to drink wine, by the way.
It's not about the wine. I would say this sober.
I know.
And I am sober. But here's the thing. Like, I love for people to... Look, we've got to do a better job as historians writing for a broader public. Part of the reason that we've lost the public, some of us, not all of us, is that, we're too busy writing for the ivory tower people. And we're using a lot of jargon and crap like that. You know what? Like, I remember I had this engagement with this person, and I don't know. He was like the editor of a series in Southern Studies at Georgia, and people could figure it out for themselves. But I said something about, like, I don't want to be like using a lot of jargon in my writing because I want to reach a broader public. And his response was that I was an intellectual coward because I wouldn't use jargon.
You know what's neat about being called that? I'll just hit you right in the face for calling me that. Is the thing.
And all I have to say is, whose books have sold more, mine or yours?
Oh, welcome to the Jason and Karen Talk Shit Hour.
Let me just say something,
Please,
Jason.
tell me.
I'm going to tell you about the last two books I've written.
Okay, please tell me.
Both for academic presses, both written for a broader audience. You know what they've sold?
Tell me.
Between 6,000 and 7,000 copies at an academic press. Like, we're closing in on 7,000 with both of them, both Goat Castle and No Common Ground. And No Common Ground is going to a second edition. I just wrote a new preface to it, little intro to it, and it'll be out in paper next year. So, I know what I'm talking about.
See, here's the thing, right? I feel like there's certainly a place for university presses. I've got great relationships with so many of them and so forth. But here's my thought, Karen, and I can say this as a guy who has not written his book. I've been terrified to write my book for a lot of different reasons. Of course, I can only do so much. The pod and all this stuff takes so much of my time.
Yeah, sure, I
sort
understand.
of posing in front of the mirror at the gym. But Karen's rolling her eyes at me right now, but really what she's doing is approving my gains.
No, man. I'm like, how many times do I need to see you like lifting weights or pushing it out? Yeah, I was just like, oh my God.
Okay, you can't.
I'm just glad that I can't smell that.
Okay. First and foremost, those pictures are not for you. Secondly, the thing I always worry about is, like, if I write this book and the same 22 people who have been listening to this for 10 years as have been developed read it,
nothing changes. And I worry about the ostaginess of like the trade, the way the trade presses are viewed on as far as for like tenure or this idea. I think I've got trade presses sitting all over my desk right now because I feel like these are the books that go into Barnes and Noble that people actually read. They've got these beautiful covers, like this lovely one, Gemini, that I'm holding right now that I'm doing, like from St. Martin's Press. Like they do great stuff because now they're making it available.
It's true.
Basic Books does good stuff. I mean, look at this Bloody Crowns book. It's so, I mean, people want to pick it up and read it. It's like, that's why we have to make history accessible to the public.
Yeah, no, there's nothing wrong with that. And that doesn't mean the scholarship suffers.
Thank you.
At all.
Thank you.
It's like, it's all there. Like I do the same kind of research.
Right.
For the books that in the way I write them as I would do for if I wanted to like try to just, talk to, the Ivory Tower group. I'm like, I really am about, and I'll tell you why, Jason. I think it's because I am first gen. And one of the things I wanted to do is write a book that my family members could read that did not go to college.
Totally.
My mother loves Goat Castle. Like she read that book. She wasn't. I don't think she really could get. What's that?
Outstanding name for a book. That's how I became aware of you. Was seeing that thing popping up.
Real name.
I know, but it still sounds good. No, it's cheese.
So it's like I don't think my mother was like terribly interested in Dixie's Daughters, and that's okay. But like, if I look at her as my, sort of like, how do I reach her?
Right.
Like, I'm thinking about that. I'm like, it's not that you have to dumb down your work. It's about how can you like take that and just reach more people. And that is kind of been my goal over the last couple of books and what I want to do going forward.
What else do people don't know what else do people not know about you? Like I know things about you, such as you have this great love of jazz. Like you and I will send.
If you're brave enough to ask, Jason, I'll answer the question. All right.
So first and foremost, where did the love of jazz come from? Because this is my podcast. I can do what I want. Because here's one of the things I love about you and me. We have these really eclectic tastes of like that we share back and forth. Like I'll get these like beautiful memes from you sometimes, or I'll see that you repost them of like these beautiful pictures from like post-war LA. It's black and white and stuff like that, or some other city. And I'm like, I feel it, Karen. Like.
Yeah, well, I was thinking about that today. I was like, when did I first start getting interested in jazz? And I think back on it, and I'm like, I think when I was in grad school, I started listening to really old torch singers like Dinah Shore and Peggy Lee and people like that. And I just loved the turn of phrase that they would use, of the songs that they sang, which were there's a like full of sexual innuendo. It's hilarious if you really listen to that.
The word innuendo itself sounds sexual to me. I'm just saying it just does. Maybe it's just because I'm perpetually a 12-year-old boy.
I think it was then. I was like, I remember listening at the time CDs. I was listening to those and writing in my journal. It's like I was just doing that. I was journaling and listening. I would have a glass of wine and I would be listening to whoever, in the background. And I think I loved it. And then like there is a photograph that exists. I performed as Peggy Lee at a AIDS fundraiser in Hattiesburg. You're going to try to write that down, Jason.
I'm not even trying. What?
Yeah. I sang, there was a guy playing piano, and then I was sort of dressed up like Peggy Lee. I had this scarf over my head and these big black sunglasses, and I sang Fever. And so clearly I was into it. This was back in Hattiesburg days. So this is early 90s and stuff. And then I moved to, when I moved to Washington, D.C., I started taking a jazz vocal workshop with this couple. It was an interracial couple. And it would bring together a really interesting group of people. It would be people who work for the Department of Agriculture, people like me. I was working at National History Day. Maybe somebody else. There's a guy who was a janitor at the National Gallery of Art. There were these people that came together for the love of jazz to learn jazz songs. And it would be an 8-week thing, like class, and we would learn different like styles of jazz. And at the end of the 8 weeks, you had to perform your song. And we performed it at this jazz club on U Street in DC. It just closed maybe a year or so ago, called Twins Jazz. And yeah, we would have to perform our songs. And it was like, I loved it because I learned a lot. It wasn't just about, oh, I love jazz and I'm learning these songs, but I learned a lot about the art of jazz. And I've just been a fan ever since. And of course, I have a project that's sort of sitting to the side right now that involves jazz history.
What's your favorite conference to go to?
What's my favorite conference to go to?
Like, for people listening in, historians, we love conferences, right? So we can go
do we now?
I have less
I think
favorable
it's changed.
taste on conferences these days, but go on.
I honestly, it used to be the SAWH, the Southern Association for Women Historians. I still go to the SHA. I'll be there in a couple weeks.
I won't.
At this point, is it about the conference or is it about the people? I honestly think that we get to a place where we're like, we're just going to see our friends.
Totally. Like, I don't want to sit.
So in that regard, it's the SHA.
Okay. Yeah. I still want to get the seersucker suit sometime when I'm like 100 pounds lighter, because like you can't do it.
I would just like be happy for 20.
I am orca shaped is what I am. Right. I am a hydrodynamic blobulous thing that eats meat is what I am. And I cannot do a seersucker suit. I'll look like the world's historical blimp or something like that. Like I can't do it.
I don't know, Jason.
Well, I can't do it now because my employer is currently not working, so they can't send me to St. Pete, which is too bad because I'm a Florida historian and my kids live in Florida.
I know, Jason.
It stinks.
You should have done a GoFundMe, Jason.
No, I'm not going to do a GoFundMe. I'm going to do an OnlyFans. Is what I'm going to do, and then that's my warning to the world.
I'm not going there with that.
No, you're not invited to be on my OnlyFans.
I don't want to. I don't even want to hear about it.
All right. Where do you go in the future? Like, what's the plan for you now? Like you're doing what you want. You're still writing. Like, what are you doing?
I'm still writing. I don't know what it looks like. Okay, here are a couple things that are like on the horizon for me. I'm applying for a fellowship for next year to work on a book.
I know of this book, but I'm not talking anymore about it.
But I can't tell you about it right now.
I know about the book. We're not talking about the book. It's a book.
A book. And I'll come back on the pod and tell you when I secured a contract for it. But the other thing, is like I'm open to doing these kinds of public facing projects. One of the things I did this last year, which I signed an NDA for, which is why I don't post about it, which someone else posted about it. You know who we're talking about.
Those words I don't even talk about that person.
Yeah.
But go on.
Well, anyway, I'm going to be in Ava DuVernay's new documentary when it appears on Netflix. I'll do whatever, I'm just going to keep doing things like podcasts, public facing things, whether it's TikTok or whatever. I just did a podcast for Gone South with Jed Lipinski and about Goat Castle, which I was really excited to do because that book doesn't get enough love. That's my favorite book ever that I wrote. It's not about all the Confederate shit that I write about, which I do. And I'm like, I think I'm good at that. But like my passion is about Natchez, about the Goat Castle book, and also about the Rhythm Club book that it's going to get done, but it's going to be put off to the side for a few more years.
When we get off air, I'm going to tell you about my passion book that I want to read.
You're not going to ask me about my gay life.
Kara, but for me, looking at you, I find so much reassurance in your story for me. And I've kind of told you this from time to time and kind of hinted at and stuff like that, how much I view you as a role model. Like, because you and I have, like, our friendship has become closer and closer over the years. Like, here's this person who has, like, gone through the shit, right? A fellow Southerner, Appalachia too. But, and then there's thing of like this constant thing, Karen, where you're like pushing back and like you have these hurdles that you overcome, whether it's the shitty stepfather or the bad experience at Murray State or whatever, and you just keep fucking going. And then you become like this thing. And like, I'm telling you, you always do this. Every time I tell you, like, because I tell you this all the time whenever I talk to somebody about you, because I name drop you like crazy. I'm like, I'm friends with Karen. But it's like, people just have so much respect for your scholarship. And I think even for me, for you as a person. And it's like this thing where I look at you and I go, this is one of the people, right? If she can do it, if she can find her way, despite all the obstacles. And like, I think you'd be the first person to say you don't have it all figured out or whatever. And I find so much comfort in that, because it's like, you're not supposed to, Jay. It's a journey.
Yeah. I'm like, I don't need, when I think about who are my people are smart people. My people are funny people.
Here's what I want people to know. At the end of the day, I am, and I just genuinely mean this, blessed by your friendship. And I can't tell you what you mean to me. And I say this because I talk to so many people and they have they echo this same conversation I'm having with you right now. Whether you know them or not, they look at you and go, this is a person. This is like my person or whatever. And I find so much strength and assuredness. And there's so many things that you and I have spoken about that are not on this conversation, and for good reason, right? But it's like the friendship that we have, the modeling that you do as a person, as a scholar. But again, for me, it's always more about you as a person. Like, this is just like, I want people to hear this about you. So thank you for taking the time and drinking wine with me, although we didn't need to do this with a pod. We drink wine whenever. For being here and sharing your life with your listener. This is a different kind of pod. So I'm glad you were here.
Yeah. Thanks, Jason.
Thank you.